Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I have Davey Cretin here, and also we have a special appearance from Martin Popoff. But tonight we're going to talk the Ramones, and we're going to rank them. It's going to take a while, but let's do it.
Talking bands no one talks about. Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight we are going to rank the catalog of legendary punk rock band, the Ramones. And tonight I've got a special guest. I've got the gentleman here, Davey Cretin, who for years played in a Ramones tribute band for like 10 years. He knows the Ramones. I don't know who else you could ever have on this show other than Davey. Davey, nice to see you. Welcome to the show. How are you? You ready to talk or rank the Ramones?
Both, actually. We will talk and rank.
There you go.
Studio catalog. 14 albums in all, because we are including the covers album called Acid Eaters from the early 90s. Some quick back history on the Ramones, but before that, let's go. Famous chant from Blitzkrieg Bop, a song I performed at almost every show I did. I played in a couple of Ramones tribute bands for over a decade around the tri-state area. First, we were called the Blitz Cretins, a combination of Blitzkrieg Bop and Cretin Hop. That's where my stage name, Davey Cretin, derived from. And then we changed a few members along the way, sort of like the Ramones did, and we became Commando. And we played Manhattan, we played Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, all over. We even did a gig in Connecticut, I think it was. So the Ramones formed in the early 70s in Forest Hills, Queens, New York, not far from where I am now. I'm a Queens youth, as if you can't tell by my accent. And I lived here most of my life, spent a couple of decades on Long Island when I was working at the record stores. Now I'm back in Queens full-time for a while now. They formed in Forest Hills, Queens in the early 70s. And they were a very different group of guys, because Joey was a quiet liberal and Johnny was a conservative who was a very hard-edged type guy and very bossy. And he ran the band like a business. And he just wanted to do 20 years, get out, that's it. So that's sort of what they did, because Johnny sort of ruled the band with an iron hand. They got a deal with Sire Records in the mid-70s, probably about 74 or so, after playing at CBGB's, which was sort of a skeezy club in Manhattan. And they were known for arguing and fighting on stage over what song they would do next. One guy wanted to do one song, one guy another song. They would start yelling and cursing at each other. Sometimes it evolved into a tiny bit of a melee. I'm sure there are clips of it on YouTube. So they became famous around this scene that was coalescing at CBGB's with Television, Talking Heads, Blondie, numerous other bands we don't have to go into. This is the American punk scene that really influenced British punk rock. That's where all the 76, 77 punk bands came from, with the Ramones playing in New York, basically. They got wind of it in England, and it took off there. Never really took off here in the States, unfortunately. So that's a brief history of the Ramones. You could say that the Stooges and Iggy Pop, MC5 were the first real punk bands, and a lot of other minor bands in America. But the ones who had the record deal and the slight push from Sire Records, Ramones.
Yeah, well, if you think about the Ramones and just the way they came into prominence, I mean, look at this band for one. They never really had any success. Anything, they were successful selling t-shirt designs. But as far as records, most of these records never really charted that high. And they were always pretty much underground, you know? But I think as the time has progressed, I think their status has become legendary. And I think a lot of it, they've influenced a lot of bands, you know? And I don't know. I thought it would be fun that we tackle this. So originally we weren't going to include Acid Eaters, but it is technically part of their catalog. So one thing before we start ranking, I want to say this, and I've been on several ranking videos in my life. This has to be one of the most difficult catalogs to rank. Now, the reason I say that is because, and I've said it with some other catalogs, but nothing's been quite like this, Davey. There's not one bad record in the Ramones canon, or there's not one bad record. Now, they all have to rank somewhere. Now, when I did my ranking, they could just, some of this could change. Some of these I look at and go, well, the production's not there. The tracks are good, but there might be something about the record that just bothers me. So I'm going to go. I've been changing my ranking all day preparing for this, but I'm just going to go with the way it is right now. Now it could change. And I think there are probably some albums that you and I could recommend if someone's getting into the Ramones, certain records that they could buy to start out with. And we could dwell on that because really, Davey, all this program's about is to turn people onto the Ramones if they haven't heard it. And if you are a Ramones fan, we do want to hear from you what your ranking is. Because Davey, we'll look at the comments and we'll respond back. But this really is just, we're just talking music today, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to start out with you, and I know what your number 14 is going to be, so we probably can piggyback onto that. But what's your number 14?
The covers album from the early 90s, Acid Eaters.
And yep, and that's mine as well. 13th studio album. This is all covers. Couple of things I want to say that I've noticed on this record. Yeah, it's a covers album. That's the only reason I'm putting it number 14, but this is really good record. One thing that I've noticed on this record really is how great a drummer Marky is. Killer on this stuff. I think the band sounds really great, but I don't think this is one of those CDs that you would really need unless you're a completist, but it's not a bad record. Pete Townsend makes an appearance. Sebastian Bach makes an appearance. Tracy Lord, for God's sake, makes an appearance. Robert Christgau said that this was hippiedom as punk in his review. So I don't know if you want to add anything more to it, but don't get me wrong. Even though this is at the bottom, it's still a fun record. It's still worth a listen. So, Davey, what's your thoughts on it?
It is. It's another 30-minute Ramones album, and it's all songs from, I think, the 1960s.
Yeah.
So it goes way back to their influences, especially Joey's influences, because he's the guy that was influenced by a lot of the 60s pop stuff. That's where he came from, and that's why his songs always have more of a longing, a romantic type bent going back to the old days, let's say, different than Dee Dee writing about modern troubles and stuff. And it's unusual that you get Pete Townsend and Tracy Lords to appear on your record, but at the time, Tracy Lords was signed to their record label, Radioactive Records, and she was putting out dance pop records. So that's how it was a label thing. That's how Tracy Lords got involved. But it's pretty cool to have Pete Townsend, one of the biggest rock stars ever, on your covers album.
Yeah, and you see Sebastian Bach on here, and that doesn't surprise me at all because he loves all this stuff. When I saw him on the 80s cruise, he sang with Air Supply. He loves Air Supply. He's like he's one of those guys that loves yacht rock. He loves everything. The guy was great.
I don't have a problem. I've seen a yacht rock tribute band, so.
But good stuff. He's on here. So I mean, if you're curious, I'd check it out. It's a decent record. It just has to. These have to land somewhere. So
because it's all covers, it comes in at number 14.
Yeah, check it out. Let us know. Hell, in the comments, let us know if you've heard it. All right,
we used to play it a lot in the record store. I would pop it on. It's just like a hair under 31 minutes, I think. So it's very short. And towards the end of the day, right before we closed, I popped that on 7:30. We'd close at 8 o'clock, and that takes us to closing. Lock the door and put on something a little more aggressive, maybe.
How did Acid Eaters sell when you were in the?
Not too well.
Yeah.
I mean, in the States, every Ramones album charted, but they didn't chart well. They didn't sell too many records, like you said. They were more influential than anything. And time has been kind to the Ramones and their catalog. And now they're looked upon as these big superstars. And unfortunately, some of the guys didn't live to see that because all 4 original members are gone now.
Yeah. Well, I just saw Marky on the 80s cruise, and he signed my
nice
Dream CD. He seems like a nice guy. He seemed like a nice. He's still trudging along.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I was going to say Acid Eaters only got up to 179 on the charts. Just a blip. But check it out. All right, what's your number 13?
Number 13 is the album after that. From July 1995, charted at 148 in America and 62 in the UK, It's their final studio album, Adios, Amigos. And I like this record. It's just not my favorite Ramones album. Like you, I don't think they made a bad record, but you have to put these records somewhere. And like you said, my order could change slightly. I mean, from this album, we used to do I Don't Want to Grow Up. And because it wasn't a Ramones lyric, it's a Tom Waits song, I had trouble getting the lyrics down because to me, it was very complex compared to all the Ramones songs. So I didn't like doing that song because I'd have to really think as I was performing it to remember all the words because there are a lot of words in the song I Don't Want to Grow Up. That was the first single. CJ Ramone, this is his third album because he was on the covers album. This is CJ's third album with the band, and he actually sings 4 tracks on here, and he co-wrote a few of the songs. He has a good voice. I like the song Making Monsters for My Friends, the second track. That's probably, that and The Crusher, which was written by Dee Dee, but CJ sings it. And we used to do The Crusher, and our guitar player, when he was with us, would go off at one point, and...
Keep going. Someone's popping into the account. Go ahead.
I'm not sure why. And when we performed The Crusher, our guitar player would go off, and sometimes we would do a 5 to 10 minute version of The Crusher because Sean Crusher, our guitar player, would just solo. He'd get on the tables, on the chairs, on the bar, and we'd walk around soloing.
Martin, you want to talk the Ramones with us?
You know what?
Mr.
I didn't even know
Popoff.
this was on, guys. I just came across the Zoom and I saw this and go, why did I know about this show? I'm not really prepared, but I'll talk some Ramones, but not a full ranking. I see you guys are ranking the catalog, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, it's great to meet you, Martin.
Yeah. How
I've
you
been a
doing,
fan of
Dave?
yours for
No,
a
this is
long
actually a
time.
Grant's Rock Warehouse show, but hey, more the merrier.
Wow, my mind is blown.
Well, while Martin's here, damn it, I'm going to have him say something. So, what's your thoughts on the Ramones, Martin?
Well, I should have a lot of thoughts, but I don't know if I do because where is it? I've actually done a Ramones book, right? So I did
All right.
big huge hardcover. The Ramones at 40 is what it's called? Yeah, Ramones at 40. And so this is full color throughout. So it's a big screaming.
Nice. That's a beautiful book. Oh, you turned off your mic.
The reason that I would say this ranks at the bottom of their official studio records or next to last is because there were some warmed over ideas because they do Cretin Family, which is an update of Cretin Hop. So that sort of maybe rubs me slightly the wrong way. CJ's song Scattergun is pretty good. I like his vocal on it. Then Joey comes up with Got a Lot to Say, which is just a DDS type song where he just keeps repeating, I got a lot to say on it. And I like Joey's song towards the end of the album. She talks to rainbows. I think that's a good melodic song. It's a good vocal. We used to do that in rehearsal, but I don't think we ever played that one out. But that was a fun one to sing and to try in rehearsal. So the only song we really did from this record was 2 songs, I Don't Want to Grow Up and The Crusher. It's a good album. It's just not a great Ramones album. So that's why it's my number 13.
I rate that one a little higher, but I'll talk about it when I get there. And I have reasons. So, all right. So my number you're going to disagree probably, but for some reason, this album drives me crazy. Okay. I think, well, this to me seems like the weakest record. Now you could totally, I don't want to upset anybody. Because like I said, there really isn't a bad Ramones record, but I think the production on here is a little bit bombastic. The drums or maybe the mix on this record just to overpower everything. And it ruins the experience for me. Okay. Because I think when we're ranking these albums, I think there's a lot that we take into consideration. Sequencing, songwriting, the production, there's a lot of things you take into consideration. And there's a lot of things that I can check off that don't quite make it. So I'm talking Brain Drain from 1989. It got to 122 on the charts, but it was produced by Bill Laswell. And I am not a fan of his production. I don't think the songs on here are quite as I think the songs on here are okay. There's 2 standout tracks for me. And that is Pet Cemetery, obviously, that was in the film, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
What is that? Probably the closest thing they ever even had a hit with?
It
I think
was.
kind of a hit. I like it. And then I love this. Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight is absolutely stunning. But, it's like big Joey stuff. I love it when Joey does stuff like this. This is when Joey just kills because, well, that's what he likes. He loves that 1960s, that whole Ronettes thing, that kind of thing. But Brain Drain got to 122 on the charts. It was the last Sire record. But the production on here, Davey, it kills it for me. And when I was doing research for this, the Ramones aren't a big fan of this record either, because you may know more about it, but these guys were at each other at this time, at each other's throats. It's probably amazing that they even got this record complete. But it almost sounds like a contractual album to me, because I don't think any of these guys really had their heart in here. You've got no Dee Dee's not on this record. I don't know if it was this record or another one. We're dealing with a lot of records tonight, but
he's on Brain Drain.
Dee Dee's on Brain Drain? Okay.
Yeah, he wrote half the album.
Okay, he wrote on it, but I don't think he's playing on it. I think he might
sings and he wrote the songs, but someone else plays bass.
Okay. So yeah, he might be on there. He's like on one track, I think, phoning something in German or something. I could be wrong.
The two songs that you like were not produced by Bill Laswell.
Well, there you go.
By Jean Beauvoir of Plasmatics and Daniel Ray. That's why you like them. Different production on those two.
Now, do you think that those, well, we're talking several years. Do you think that
they were done a year earlier?
Okay. Yeah, we could have just used the same producers. That might have helped. I don't like Bill's production on this at all. It kind of ruins it for me.
Okay.
But hey, you might hear some different. So we will talk about it. We'll talk about it. So anyway, that's my number 13. What's your number well, wait a minute. I guess we're at 12, right? Yeah. What's your number 12?
Yep. Well, first of all, I forgot to mention that Adios Amigos, my number 13, was produced by the aforementioned Daniel Ray. Now, coming in at number 12, I think this might be definitely a contrarian pick to have so low, but this record never hit me like a lot of their other mid-period, let's say, albums. So coming in at number 12, Subterranean Jungle, produced by Richie Cordell and Glenn, Kolotkin, if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah, Kolotkin?
Yeah, Kolotkin. And Subterranean Jungle came out in February 1983. It charted at number 83 in America, and it did not chart in England. And I like this record. I just don't love it. It just never hit me. For this album, the only song we ever did live was Psychotherapy, which is a great song. And of course, the Ramones made a video, and MTV refused to show it. So the Ramones, as you were saying earlier, when you said they never really had giant hits, they had a lot of bad luck. They had a cool, catchy song. They made a video. MTV didn't show it. And right at the prime period of MTV in 83, 84, they had no airplay on this. So that hurt them. They just were a bad luck band. Like when they released Rockaway Beach as a single, I think it was November. So who releases a summer song in the fall going into winter?
That's commercial suicide.
It was just a lot of bad business decisions, bad luck. They got tarred and feathered with a punk brush, and radio stations didn't want to play them. They didn't want to have anything to do with them, the FM rock stations, because they thought, they would get complaints. And if they promoted the concerts, that people would be spitting on each other. I did a whole video on this on my channel, why the Ramones weren't a big commercial success. So they just had a lot of bad breaks, unfortunately. But I think Psychotherapy is a really good song. There are a bunch of covers on this album. That's another weakness. I think this is the only studio Ramones album that has, 3 covers on it. Little Bit of Soul from the Music Explosion, which is like a throwback nugget song from the late 60s, early 70s. I Need Your Love by Bobby D. Waxman, and the Chambers Brothers, Time Has Come Today, which is a great song. And I really like the cover. And we did Little Bit of Soul in rehearsal, and the band, we also did Time Has Come Today in rehearsal. But the only song we ever played out from this record was Psychotherapy, which is my favorite song on the record. There are some other good songs, some harder edge songs like Outsider, Highest Trails Above. They're really good songs. Yeah. But just as a whole, this album just never struck a chord with me. So that's why I have it so low, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have it a lot
I
higher.
apologize to everyone, and I hope no one's offended by that.
Well, it's the same thing because Brain Drain never connected with me.
Right.
I I don't know. I just can tell on Brain Drain. No one's getting along. It's just they're in a terrible situation at that point.
Well, that was going on since the early 80s because
Yeah, I
there's a
know.
song written about it, which I'll get to after. But Joey had a girlfriend. Johnny stole her and married her. And then the guys didn't even talk. They would talk through Marky in the studio. Tell Joey this, Johnny would say. And Joey would say, tell Johnny that. They were in the same room. They wouldn't talk
Poor
to each other.
Marky.
How could you spend, 15 years of your career like that?
No wonder Marky drank a lot.
Exactly. He was the mediator. Besides the producers, probably Dee Dee.
Ugh, horrible. All right, cool. Good pick, though I rated mine higher. See, ladies and gentlemen, that just goes to show you, as you will find in this ranking, we all hear things differently. And I rate mine a lot higher because there's really nothing really bad in this catalog. Even though I kind of was beating up Brain Drain, they have to go somewhere. All right. So my number 12 is going to be Adios Amigos. Got up to 148, came out on Radioactive Records in 1995. There's nothing on this Ramones album that's going to set the world on fire. The band sounds great. One of the reasons I think they sound so great is because CJ Ramone, when he came into the band, I think he added a lot. I think he brought a breath of fresh air into the Ramones. And it shows on this record. Yeah, I know it's the final record with CJ, but still, like you said, he sings lead vocals on Making Monsters with My Friends, The Crusher, Cretin Family, and Scattergun. CJ is great. And he sounds great when he sings. And I think perfectly fits in with the Ramones. Like I said, breath of fresh air. Dee Dee, that's right. Dee Dee left right after Brain Drain. But you mentioned that Adios Amigos still, or did you? I can't remember. Did you mention that it still has 6 Dee Dee compositions on this record?
Yes.
We're on tangents. I don't know, but anyway, I'm going to mention it.
Actually, it was Brain Drain. I said he had 6.
Okay. All right. But he's got 6 tracks on here. He's not here, but he's still writing and they're still using his material. Of course, obviously, as a songwriter, Dee Dee was a brilliant songwriter. But the production doesn't bother me. The songs don't bother me. It's not, like I said, it's not anything like in the first period of the band, which everything is just absolutely brilliant. But this is not anything embarrassing. It's a good way to close out the band because it's a high note to some degree. I don't detect anybody really hating each other. It's just like, let's just put out a good record and call it a day. So would I recommend this to start out with? Well, possibly, but probably not. It's probably more one of those records that you would need if you were a completist, but it's not an embarrassment. And that's my number 12, and it's a decent record. Okay, we're up to number 11.
Coming in at number 11, I have their 12th studio album, came out September 1992, reached 190 in the American charts and 87 in the British charts, so it did better over there. Mondo Bizarro, and this was produced by Ed Stasium. It has one cover, a cover of The Doors, Take It Easy. Take It As It Comes. Sorry. Marky actually has a couple of songs on this record that he wrote. Dee Dee, even though he was out of the band, contributed a few songs. And Joey has a bunch of songs on this album, Mondo Bizarro. I like almost every song on here. And we used to do a few from here. We did Censor Shit, written by, pardon my French, written by Joey, all about Tipper Gore, and great lyrics on that song. I love that song. Marky contributed track 2, The Job That Ate My Brain, which is a song that was on my mind last week when I had one bad shift at work. So I really liked The Job That Ate My Brain. And Poison Heart was one of my favorite songs that we used to perform. I used to love singing Poison Heart, and I put a lot of effort into singing that song just like Joey did on the record. Another great Marky Ramone song, Anxiety, and the Dee Dee Penn Strength to Endure is a really good song.
Davey,
So
can
those
I
are my-
interrupt you for a second?
Oh yeah, sure.
I just got to make sure this thing works. I thought I blew up my whole system. I had to unplug my computer. Wow. I can't believe this is working again. Okay, sorry.
Your
go
audio
back to what
sounds
you're saying.
your audio sounds really good.
Oh my God.
What
I don't
happened?
know what the hell happened. I
just
unplugged everything,
froze.
replugged everything back in. I was thinking I blew everything up, but no, it seems to be working again. So sorry about that. And
No,
I
you're all right.
apologies. I thought this was a contrarian show. I didn't know. I thought it was just something I missed, but
Well, I used to have a Zoom account, but since I'm paying in the Contrarian account, I got
Yeah.
rid of my Zoom. So why would I pay for
Yeah.
Zoom twice?
all right. Well, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just had to make sure this
Well,
works. So go
Martin,
ahead.
while you're here, though, Davey would come. We'll keep this show. If this show could get any looser, Davey, I don't know it could. But Martin, give us. You were showing the book real quick. Did you put your?
I put it away. That book is cursed.
So, what's
no,
your?
but,
Give us your thing on the Ramones real quick, Davey.
yeah, so
Davey, you're
so
good,
I'm
right?
definitely a fan. You know, I saw that. I guess you guys doing a whole ranking of the catalog?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, wicked. So I'll listen into that. But no, my thoughts are where's my I dialed it up here, but okay. Anyways, I mean, my thoughts are definitely I really love this band a lot. I was surprised to hear, like, we did a Contrarians episode, and I picked my favorite Ramones album as Pleasant Dreams. And I'm surprised to hear that a lot of people think that's way down the bottom of the list, right?
Not for me.
That's
Not for
pretty
me.
interesting. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. So, and then, you know, of course, Rocket to Rush is way high up the list. The first album, I actually now find the production a little bit too distracting, and I'm not really into it. So I think it really picks up for the second album, and they perfected on Rocket to Russia. I know that's probably not even all that you know, deep a thought, but yeah, that's Davey. What would you say? Is that the album that basically wins the polls usually?
Yes, the early stuff, the 4 early records, I would say.
Okay.
Although I have some contrarian takes on my list that'll come later.
Okay. Yeah.
So Martin, I'm just curious. What is it about Pleasant Dreams? Is it the songwriting, the mix, what is it that makes it? Because it has a contrarian view.
Yeah, I'm just dialing up my handy dandy here. I always use A to Z lyrics for when I want to see song titles at a glance. It's actually a really good resource for things, because you could just scroll down and there's no bull to it. It's just all there kind of. And I really like End of the Century as well. But yeah, I think the production is really well put together. It's heavy. We Want the Airwaves is one of their riffiest songs. It's got a little note density to it. But KKK Took My Baby Away is standard Ramones. That's pretty cool. Don't Go, You Sound Like You're Sick is standard Ramones. She's a Sensation, standard Ramones. 7-Eleven, Business is Sitting in My Room is an absolute classic on that album as well. But yeah, I'd say Sitting in My Room and We Want the Airwaves are a big deal. And it's just a good year for me. I was just in, you know, I was heavily into music at this point. I had all the Ramones albums by this point. And got into them, I would say, with the debut or the second one, I would say. I'll tell you one funny view that we always had of the Ramones. I've never been able to shake this. This has absolutely happened to us as kids. You know, when you think sometimes that somebody has a novelty lead vocal voice, where you just can't get your head around that vocal. And the Ramones were always this band for us as young, angry headbangers and as punks, right? I mean, I loved punk. I was into every single heavy punk album at the time that came out. But the funny thing about the Ramones, me and my buddies could never get over Joey's voice. Like, there's something about it seemed comedic or not heavy enough, yet all the music behind it was heavy enough, except for even the music had a little bit too much melody at times. And then also, because we're coming from a heavy metal end of things, it had a little bit of that too repetitious, no guitar solos, short songs kind of thing. Whereas my favorite punk bands would be the Saints, the Damned, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, even the Dead Boys ahead of the Ramones. Just always seemed to have more riffs and more complication, and the songs were 3.5 minutes long and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I just remember that there was just this ceiling, this glass ceiling where I couldn't get above, and it was his voice. to begin with. But then as time went on, and this happened with a lot of artists, you get comfortable with artists, and then you forget the things that bugged you early on about it, and it never bugged me ever again. And yeah, I play these Ramones albums regularly, walking around or in the car, whatever. And it's all good stuff. It's all very, it's nothing too particularly outside of like there's nothing crazy experimental anywhere, right? Although, you know, there's the flirtation back and forth with how hardcore are we? You know, later on in the 80s, they could be pretty heavy sounding, super heavy productions, you know, DD songs and being very punky and, like I say, hardcore. But other than that, you know, that's just them being punks kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's just a good solid catalog, and there's just lots all over the catalog to be into.
Well, we were talking earlier, then we were doing our setting up the ranking, and one of the comments that I made that if you look at the Ramones catalog, there really isn't a record in here. Yeah, we all have our favorites. They all have to rank somewhere, but I don't look at this catalog as really having anything that's really weak. You know, even the worst, maybe the worst Ramones album still has a lot to offer over a lot of things. And, you know, when we rank them, we have to rank them somewhere, but I don't think there's really anything that's weak here. I mean, do you see anything in the catalog that's really weak, Martin?
Well, I don't know, Davey, what do you think? I mean, do people generally, I would say the ones that people might put down the most are Pleasant Dreams, Subterranean Jungle, possibly Halfway to Sanity. Davey, what would you say? Brain Drain, maybe?
I agree. And the later albums, the radioactive albums, the covers album, Adios, Amigos, Mondo, Bizarro.
Okay.
Boy, this is going to be a contrarian episode, because wait till you see where I rate Mondo Bizarro.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what I was talking about.
I like the radioactive stuff because well, I think they were in a good place. And I think CJ Ramone brought a lot to the band. He was like a breath of fresh air to them.
Yeah, he revitalized them in a way. I agree.
Yeah. And it comes across on these albums when I listen to it. Because when I listen to Brain Drain, I just can tell that everybody hates everybody. And it's just, and Bill Laswell's production is just absolutely bombastic. The drums are so hot in the mix that it totally overpowers Johnny's guitar on a lot of it. And we talked about this too, Martin, that two songs that I think are really great on it are Pet Cemetery and Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight. Those to me are the standout tracks. And Davey said, well, Grant, you know, those weren't even produced by Bill Laswell.
Yep.
That was produced by the guy in the Plasmatics, right?
Yeah, Jean Bourgeois and Daniel Ray.
Yeah. But they almost don't even
earlier.
Yeah. The rest of the record for me just kind of lays there. I'm sure if I really, really dive into it, maybe, but I was telling Davey, I just can't get into that Bill Laswell production. That's what really kills it. You know, some people can get over that, but man, everything has to line up for me in a ranking that's going to be up at the top.
Yeah, I don't find any of the productions particularly bother me. It's funny, Subterranean Jungle, starting with a little bit of soul. Everybody thinks that production is like pervasive, but then it goes away, right? And then it just becomes a regular Ramones album. So a lot of I don't think any of them are too particularly bad. But you're right, some of them really emphasize the drum sound, have big heavy drums on them, right?
Yeah.
More jarring is the different vocalists and stuff. That's where you really start feeling the variety on these albums. Right?
When Dee Dee starts singing. Yeah. But I like Dee Dee's vocals.
Even the last album's strong, you know. I Don't Want to Grow Up. What a great song.
Yeah.
You know? There's good stuff on all of them, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Davey, where were you at again? What number were we on?
Number 11. I was talking about Mondo Bizarro. And I just wanted to mention the last couple of songs, or almost couple of songs. Cabbies on Crack features some lead guitar by Vernon Reid, which has his very particular tone. And I know, Martin, you're not a fan of Steve Howe's guitar tone. And I guess Vernon Reid's guitar tone reminds me, especially on the first Living Color record, it's just very screechy and high.
Like
high
screechy.
That's just a noisy band, man. Outside of the first, outside of those couple of hits, everything else they ever did, they are such a noisy, squally, crazy, chaotic band. Living Color, eh? Wow.
I saw them last year, and what you just described them to a T.
He has that high end, that pitch of his guitar. Sometimes it can go through your head, but he plays lead guitar, some crazy lead guitar on the song Cabbies on Crack, written by Joey. And then the last song called Touring, they actually did in 81 for the Pleasant Dreams album. And there's a version of it in the bonus tracks on the reissue of Pleasant Dreams. And I like that song. It's very much in the, like a Beach Boys type of sound. And you could actually sing other Ramones songs over it. So it's sort of, they're ripping off themselves mixed with the Beach Boys, but it's a good song, Touring. You could sing Rock and Roll High School right over the top of it, which I used to do. And they even mentioned Rockaway Beach. It sounds a little like Rockaway Beach, Rock and Roll High School. Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio? And the Beach Boys all put together. So I like the last song, Touring. And that's my number 11, which is Mondo Bizarro.
All right. See, now I look at my list and I wonder if I rated this too high. I don't know. My number 11 is Halfway to Sanity. September 5th of 87, got to 172. The problem that I have here, I don't have a problem with the production, but the band to me sound kind of uninspired. A lot of the tracks to me sound a little bit half-baked. I think I Want to Live is the best thing on the record. Joey, to me, is Joey drunk on this record? Because Joey sounds drunk.
I don't think he was. I think he was drinking earlier in the early 80s, more than the late 80s.
Okay, he sounds drunk. Weasel Face sounds alive, but I don't think it's a great Ramones track. Go Little Camaro. I'm not into that. It just sounds forced, you know? Robert Christgau said, a great band is finally worn down into a day job for night people on this record. I always like to quote Christgau because he's always so offensive, but he might have a good point on this one. I don't know, but see, they're getting to that late 80s period where they're having so much conflict that I think it all comes across on these records. And that's why Brain Drain's number 13 and this is 11, you know. It is what it is. It's not one of my favorites, but this record, yeah, got to 172. That's not a very good showing. So it is what it is.
And it's also my number 10, Halfway to Sanity.
Okay, we're on the same thing.
Yep, okay. Produced by Daniel Ray and the band themselves. And it reached, like you said, it reached 172, came out September 87, and it reached 78 on the UK charts. And there are some good songs on this record. It has no covers on it, which is a little unusual in Ramones land. So Halfway to Sanity, it has 7 out of 12 of the songs are Dee Dee songs. Only 3 are Joey songs. And Richie has 2 songs and Johnny co-wrote 3 of the songs. So from this album, my band used to do, we did I Want to Live. Like you said, that's a great song.
Great track.
The best song on the record. We also did track 2, Bop Till You Drop, and Garden of Serenity. So I'd say those are the 3 big songs on the record. Some of the other songs, Weasel Face, I Know Better Now, they're decent. I like I Lost My Mind. That's a good Dee Dee Johnny track because that's such a Dee Dee track where he's screaming, I lost my mind, I lost my mind. So that's a funny song. It's a cute little Ramones song. And Worm Man is okay. And Joey has his big ballad toward the end of the record, Bye Bye Baby, because he loves that Phil Spector sound. And he goes back to it a lot, but more on that later. So that is my number 10.
Number 10. All right, cool. My number 10, I'm going to go with, see this whole period, they could fluctuate. I'm going to go with Animal Boy. Came out May 19th of 86, got to 143 on the charts. Jean Bova, I can never pronounce his name.
Jean Beauvoir.
John Beauvoir.
Yeah, let the real Canadians say it.
I know. I let Martin say it.
He did a whole autobiography, eh? I noticed he's got a whole
did
on his life, yeah.
But yeah, he was of the Plasmatics. A lot of people critique this record because there's synths on it. But I don't think the synths really take anything away. I don't mind synthesizers. I think from what they did, I think that really stands out on the track She Belongs to Me. That is still my favorite track, and I love Joey's vocals on it. But this album is one of those controversial records. Some people like it. A lot of people don't like it. And a lot of people don't like synthesizers on a Ramones record. To me, I think the production's fine. I think what they do here, nothing bothers me. I didn't really write down any particular tracks other than She Belongs to Me. I don't like crummy stuff. I didn't think that that's a good track. It's just not good. But other than that, I don't think it's too bad. It's just in the middle of the ranking for me. I don't really have much more to say about it. It's like those really later albums, I really have a lot to say, but when we get higher up in the catalog, I think they just keep getting stronger and stronger for me. But anyway, that's my number 10.
Okay. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. The aforementioned Brain Drain is my number 9.
Wow.
I like a lot of songs on this record. As you said, it was 122 in America, number 75 in the UK. And Brain Drain is produced by Bill Laswell, and the 2 songs by Beauvoir and Ray. And I think there are some good songs on here. I like their cover of Palisades Park. We used to do that in the band. It was another hard song for me to remember the lyrics because they're not Ramones lyrics. So that used to throw me at shows. But we used to do I Believe in Miracles, which Pearl Jam actually perform a lot. It's on a bunch of their live records. I like 00 UFO. Punishment Fits the Crime is a really good Dee Dee song. Palisades Park, Pet Cemetery, one of their biggest hits on American radio, I guess.
Yep.
College alternative rock radio at the time. We used to perform Pet Cemetery. It always got a good reaction. And then the Christmas song you mentioned, Grant, Merry Christmas, Baby, I Don't Want to Fight. Or Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight. We used to do that song too, and that always went down well. I like that song. It's a really good song. I guess the production is a little off on most of the tracks, like you said, but I like a lot of the songs, so the production doesn't bother me as much on this record.
See, that's my problem. It's got everything has to fit in a certain, and the production just throws me off. I can't get used to it.
But you did say it shows off Marky's drum abilities, and he used to play with a hard rock band in the early 70s called Dust. So the guy.
No, I think. The album. No, Acid Eaters is where I think Marky really shines.
Okay.
I don't like the drums on Brain Drain at all. Oh, it's horrible.
One of the great things of Marky is how fast his hi-hat hand is, right?
Oh yeah.
People don't talk much about Marky, but he's a great drummer. Great.
He's underrated, but he was in the Ramones, and they're not looked upon as stellar musicians.
Yeah. And I've never heard those Dust albums, so I don't know how he was then.
They're a little overrated. People really think they're heavy because they got super heavy album covers, right? First one's got the catacombs, the skulls from the catacombs thing, and it's a sepia toned, and the second one's like a Frank Frazetta Vikings on a mountain thing. It's called Heart Attack, H-A-R-D. It's got a super heavy song called Suicide. Couple other heavy ones. I mean, they're a little bit heavy. They're power trio-y, but they're quite even dated for when they came out, which I think is 71 and 72, right?
Which is not your favorite era.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think they're a little behind the times, so they're not as heavy as they look, is what I'm saying.
And those albums were recorded when they were in high school. They were 16 when they did those. Isn't that crazy?
Right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't remember the story. He told the story on the 80s about it.
Production, right?
Yeah.
On both of them, I think. Yeah, something like that.
I think so. So you just did your number 10?
No, number 9.
Number 9. Golly, I can't keep track. All right, cool. My number 9's Too Tough to Die. Now you might think that's a little low. That's one of those ones people really dig. Got Richie Ramone on drums. You've got Tommy Ramone back producing, which is good. I guess the good thing here is that this thing was pretty much recorded live in the studio, and you can tell. And like I said, it's often stated that this is like the last great Ramones album.
Pretty heavy.
It's pretty heavy. I just don't see it as quite as a return to form to me, because it sounds to me like the band's almost on automatic pilot to some degree. I know you don't agree, I know, but that's how I hear it. And I keep trying to get into it. I think Warthog is absolutely great. I love it when Dee Dee sings, but maybe it's a production thing, because I think the production sounds a bit cold. And when I listen to the demo tracks on the 2002 reissue, I like the sound of the demos. I kind of wish they would record this like they used to back in the day. I think I need less production. Maybe that's it. I think like on those first albums, the production's not quite as good, but I think that adds to it. It's like listening to Hotter Than Hell. It sounds like crap, but that adds to the whole experience. And I think the Ramones, at least in this period, I want to hear them a little bit more raw and less slick. I'm not saying this is slick by any means, but maybe it's just a little bit too overproduced for my taste, because I don't really have any trouble with the songs and such, but the demos to me sound way better. I wish it sounded like the demos. So maybe that's a minor thing. It's still a good record. Yeah, could it be considered the last great Ramones album? Possibly. I don't know. Like I said, there's really not a weak album, but I have to rank these somewhere. So I don't know, Martin, what do you think of this? Do you think this is the last?
Well, let's ask the expert. I mean, this period, it was sort of known that they were trying to like participate a little more in the hardcore world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like update, we started all this. Let's jump into the harder end of this, right?
And Dee Dee was
the way I remember it.
Dee Dee was clean at this point, and he and Johnny got together and they took the band in a harder and heavier direction. Yeah. And you could say they were sort of influenced by SoCal punk. So all the bands from the West Coast is how I always looked at it.
So you could say instead of being leaders like they were following the trends.
But there's great songs on that record.
Not New York hardcore at all, you don't think? Or
it was their style, just updated, and just they used some other sounds, the hardcore sounds on Endless Vacation and Warthog. I would say that's influenced by Southern Cal punk. Just the heaviness of it, the speed of it.
I love the way Warthog sounds.
Old SoCal punk, like before pop punk, yeah.
Oh yeah, way before the 90s stuff.
Yeah.
Even the later 80s stuff, yeah.
So which punk bands would that be from SoCal back then?
I guess sort of like maybe the Bad Religion school from back then. Bad Religion was starting out. They were punk, and then they went prog, then they went back to punk.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Just the whole scene. And just they were trying different stuff because their last few records didn't do as well as the earlier records. So they were trying to reinvent themselves. I think it's a great album. It just didn't work in terms of making them rise above everyone else. Because as I was telling Grant before.
Yeah, because this only got up to 171. As they keep producing albums, they keep going down and down the charts. Maybe it's just the production. It's not bad by any means, but I have to describe it somehow. But I think the songs are all there. You know what I mean? That's all I'm trying to say. But it has to end up somewhere on my ranking list.
Should I move on to my number 8 now?
Sure.
Okay, coming in at number 8 on my list. From February 1980, End of the Century, produced by Phil Spector. It actually reached number 44 in America, which is their highest chart position on the Billboard charts. And it reached number 14 in the UK because they had a big hit on here with the Phil Spector, or the Ronettes cover, written by Phil Spector, Baby, I Love You. So that was a huge hit in England. So that's why it charted so high there at number 14. Produced by Phil Spector, End of the Century. And it has one cover song, Baby, I Love You. It's another short album, 34 minutes. And there are some excellent songs on here. Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio? My band used to do that. I'm Affected, I like. Danny Says, one of my favorite Ramones songs. And I love the production on it. We used to do that, one of my favorite songs to perform. And then co-written by Richard Hell and Dee Dee, Chinese Rocks. Great song. I used to love to play that song. And those are really my 4 favorites. And I guess Rock and Roll High School is really good on here. Oh, and I Can't Make It on Time, the Joey song, which is one of my theme songs, since I'm always running a little late. I love that song too. It might be a tad overproduced because it's Spector, but he did get Joey Ramone. He loved Joey's voice. He wanted just to produce Joey, not the whole band. And he made Joey a better singer, which you could tell on subsequent albums. He helped us strengthen his range and his voice. So I think it was good to get Joey Ramone with Phil Spector. So
I like that it's overproduced. I think it just gives you something extra to debate and listen to and ponder, because, you know, I mean, Ramones they really, rankle that sort of idea of, you know, it's Ramones, AC/DC, and Motorhead, right? The bands are just doing the same thing over and over again. It's so simple and stuff. So when you have a few extra layers of things and some acoustic guitars massaged in and stuff, just gives you something else to listen to, right?
Yeah, I rated a lot higher, but normally the Phil Spector productions, I think what he did to Let It Be, not good. Drives me crazy. This John Lennon productions drive me crazy. Muddy, murky mess. All things must pass, a mess. Not as bad on that one, but for some reason with the Ramones, because I'm kind of used to them being kind of murky, lo-fi kind of sounds. I'm going to get to it, but I think End of the Century really works, and I love it. I put it within that whole era of classic Ramones albums. I might put that at the end of it, but I love it. And the songwriting on it, wonderful tracks on here. Phil got the Ramones, you know, and I think Joey was just absolutely in heaven working with Phil. I mean, you know, he had Johnny play guitar parts over and over and over and over again. But he was a
and Johnny said he was done. He walked out of the studio.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of Phil Spector's guys, his session men, playing on that record, especially the guitars and the keyboards, the strings, yada yada.
I mean, it is what it is, but I think it's a good record. Chinese rock, God, there's some great stuff on there.
Oh yeah.
All right, where am I at? Oh, okay. Well, we've reached number 8. My number 8 is going to be Pleasant Dreams, July 20th, 81. Got to number 44 on the charts, ladies and gentlemen. That could be considered a success. But I'm kind of with Martin. I like this record. I think Graham Goldman, they tried to get Steve Lillywhite on this record, but the sire poo-pooed that. But they got Graham Goldman, which is good. And I know, Joey was probably all into Graham Goldman based on, the hits that he wrote in the 60s, Bus Stop and, No Milk Today. He probably loved it. I think all the tracks are here good. We Want the Airways is great. KKK Took My Baby Away could be considered kind of silly, but it's catchy. It sounds great. I think Graham Goldman knew what to do with the Ramones, because from what I read is that he would suggest a lot of chord changes, or maybe he really did produce the record, made the songs better, and I guess he was very pleasant to work with. I know that the band were a mess. I know Marky was just drunk, or this was a bad, right? This is the last one he was on right before they fired him, right? I do believe.
No, he was on Subterranean Jungle.
Okay, so it was the next one. But I'm just looking at the track listing here, and it's Not My Place in the 9 to 5 World. She's a Sensation. I don't have a problem with this record at all. I think I don't know why people are kind of harsh on it, but I like this record. So
do I.
Yeah, my number 8.
And this is my number 7, Pleasant Dreams.
Okay, well, there you go.
I think it's a great album. Pleasant Dreams is an excellent record. Just has to go somewhere. It did not chart in England, which is surprising, because they had just had such a hit on End of the Century. And then this one, the follow-up, didn't even chart. So it's very strange. But We Want the Airwaves is a great song. I like All's Quiet on the Eastern Front. The KKK Took My Baby Away, which Joey wrote because Johnny had stolen his girlfriend, Linda, and eventually married her. Because, as I said before, Johnny was a conservative Republican, so that's how Joey saw him. He said, the KKK took my baby away, which is a great song. We used to do that song. I would love performing that song. It's Not My Place in the 9 to 5 World. One incarnation of our band, we did that, and that's a great song to sing. And I don't think that Joey could have sang it so well if it wasn't for Phil Spector, helping him out, because there's some kind of octave jump in there. And it was very hard for me to do. I was taking vocal lessons when I was singing in the band because I had never been in a band. And I'm a guy in my 30s, and one of my customers at the record store approaches me, "Hey, Dave, you want to start a Ramones tribute band? You look like Joey. I think you should be the singer in the band." And I said to him, "Donnie, I don't sing." And he said, "Neither did Joey. It'll be perfect. Come to my house, rehearse some songs, just be prepared. We're going to just sing the first few songs along from the first album at my house." And at the time, I gave my girlfriend this guy's number and address because I didn't know I was going to the stranger's house. I only knew from the record store. Yeah. And I went there and he said, "You sound good enough. You could sing in the band." So I'm a 30-something-year-old guy starting out singing in a band. I went to my first rehearsal in the studio. It was very cool and all new to me. And I wish I had done it 20 years before, but I never thought I could sing. Who knew?
Yeah. I love It's Not My Place. That song is such an end of the century type song. It's so Phil Spector, right? Just the chord changes and stuff. It's just really sophisticated 60s, right?
Yes, it's a great song. And She's a Sensation. We used to do that one. Joey's song. I love 7-Eleven. And This Business Is Killing Me. That's another really good Joey song. So Joey at this time, I think, was coming into his own as a songwriter. And Dee Dee had blossomed a bit earlier. So now they had two really good songwriters. Yeah. So Pleasant Dreams is an excellent album. I don't find really any fault with it. It just has to sit somewhere. So it's my number 7.
Awesome. Good. This excellent. Okay.
Very different album cover too, right? I mean, very big stylistic shift with the album covers.
Well, so was End of the Century. That alienated a lot of fans.
Yes,
with the Ramones in these bright colored T-shirts. What the heck is this? Where's the leather? What's going on?
Reminds me of the back of Star's Attention Shoppers. That really shocked us. Same kind of deal.
Good deep cut.
Yeah.
All right. Well, well, this is going to be contrarian. But my number 7 is Mondo Bizarro. Came out in 1992. Now, the reason I picked this is the 12th album. You would think by now, for God's sakes, come on. They're on a new label. I already said that this radioactive material, they sound like a revitalized band. And this is the first album that CJ Ramone was brought in. They're back with Ed Stasium, the producer, is back, and that's a good sign too. He did a lot of work with the Smithereens, great producer. What I like about this record is that they sound refreshed, like I said. CJ has brought them back to life. I think all the songs on here are really good and memorable. The Job That Ate My Brain could have been from that golden period. Could have been from the late 70s. It fits right in. And the sound quality, I love the production on here. And the band sounds really good. I can't really detect any negativity. For some reason, those later Sire records in that whole 80s period just sound, maybe you can't hear, but once you know the stories behind these records and you know all the ins and outs, you kind of start hearing it on the record. But I do not detect anything on here. It just sounds like the band, even though I know Joey and Johnny aren't getting along, but you got Marky back. CJ was a breath of fresh air. I really dig this record. I really like it. Really enjoy it. We all hear it differently.
It's got great songs on it.
It's got great songs.
Poison Heart, one of my favorites, as I said.
Doesn't have Dee Dee on it, but still.
He's writing a bit.
He's writing a bit.
Andy Chernoff's writing for the Dictators. Yeah.
They've always used Dee Dee songs, even though, what was Dee Dee out doing rap at this point?
That great solo album of his.
Oh.
Man, you look on Discogs, I remember when it came out and I didn't buy it. I remember seeing it in the bins. Holy mackerel, you go on Discogs, that's expensive. Because think about it, did Dee Dee, that didn't sell anything.
No. And I'm sure I have it on CD, vinyl, and cassette, I'm sure, knowing me.
Probably. Well, you were in the business, and by the business, I mean the industry. So
the record industry, yeah.
That's right.
Working in a record store at the time.
That's exactly what I mean. All right. So Mondo Bizarro, number 7. Who knew I would rate it so high? And I didn't when I looked into this. So there you go. Number 6.
Number 6 is a record that I really enjoy a lot for the most part. Animal Boy. from 1986. And this is sort of where I came into the Ramones. The thing about working in record stores is I was turned on to a lot of different bands by a lot of my coworkers. And at the time, this is right before I was working at a record store started, I was hanging out with a different group of people, and they're the ones that turned me on to the Ramones. My friends Bobby, Anthony, and Carolyn turned me on to punk in about 84, 85. So I came in to the Ramones in the Too Tough to Die Animal Boy era. So that's why I ranked this highly, because it was one of my first exposures to the band. And I remember my friend Bobby lending me his vinyl because I had a big stereo system and I would put it on tape and we'd drive around and listen to the Ramones in my car. So I had his records and I was very careful with them. And I taped a bunch of songs from all the records leading up to and including this on vinyl at the time. So I really enjoy Animal Boy. And this record charted at number 38 in England, believe it or not. Like you said, it was only 143 in America. But I think there are some really great songs on this album. There's a couple of clunkers, like any of their mid to later period stuff, if you want to look at it that way. But Richie Ramone on this album wrote Somebody Put Something in My Love that song. We used to do that. She Belongs to Me, I think, is a really good ballad, and it's actually written by Dee Dee and Jean Beauvoir, of all people. Sounds like a Joey song, but it's not, but I like Joey's vocal on it. And unlike you, Grant, I like crummy stuff. We used to do that in rehearsal, but we never played it out. Keyboards might be a little cheesy, but I think it's a funny song lyrically. It's totally a Dee Dee song, crummy stuff. And it's just so catchy. Crummy, 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 crummy.
Oh, I
crummy.
know. It's like
Good song.
yummy,
And
yummy, yummy. I've got love in my tummy kind of thing. I get it. Oh, Davey, I get it.
My Brain is Hanging Upside Down, subtitled Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, one of my favorite Ramones songs. They got political, written by Joey, Dee Dee, and Jean Beauvoir. And this is an anti-Reagan song. And Johnny, as a big Republican, said, I'm not going to let you guys put a song on a record called Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. So they agreed that they would call it My Brain is Hanging Upside Down, subtitled Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. We used to play this song, and I used to have to sing it in a gruff voice. And I used to love singing this song. Excellent track. Keyboards might be a little dated on this whole album, but I just like the keyboards on here. Mental Hell is a good Joey song. And then it ends with Something to Believe in, which is a great video. If you haven't seen the video they made for Something to Believe in, it has great guest stars in it. I'm not going to ruin it. So check it out when you're done with this video on YouTube. That's a great Ramones video. It's a parody of Hands Across America. And one of my face sakes is in it, besides Joey Ramone. I will say Weird Al is in it.
Weird Al.
Nice.
I've been called by older people Weird Al and Howard Stern, especially in my whole life. And then by the younger people, sometimes Joey Ramone. But I guess that's just the way I've looked for.
Where are you from, Davey? Where do you live?
Oh, Queens, just like the Ramones.
Queens. Okay, all right.
New York over here. But I'm in the borough of Queens, unlike your good buddy Mr. Pardo, who's upstate.
Yeah.
I'm closer to Jack Toledano, who's on the island.
Yeah. You did a show with Jack, or have you done more than one with Jack?
Oh, I've done a few, and we have more plans coming soon.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, my number 6. You're probably all right. Another contrarian pick, but I'm going to go with Subterranean Jungle.
And I had it much lower.
I know. February 23rd, 1983, got to 83 on the charts. This was the last record with Marky until Brain Drain. But, and it was the first album that had vocals from Dee Dee. And for me, I love it when Dee Dee, when he starts doing his thing, I just love it. See, what is he on? He's on singing lead on Time Bomb and the bridge on Outsider. I don't know. It adds a breath of fresh air, just kind of like CJ to me. And this record's a lot heavier than like the previous record, though it might be a tad slicker. I like the production from Richie Curdell. I don't have a problem with that. And Glenn, I'm going to butcher it because we were talking about his last name before the show.
Kolotnik?
Yeah, I don't know his work or who that is, but I know who Richie Curdell is. The only thing that I really find odd for this, that does have 3 covers, and it starts out with a little bit of soul. And I think that's kind of, I don't think I'd start out with that. I might have started out with Outsider or something. No, yeah, because I think
Psychotherapy is so heavy on this, eh? Psychotherapy?
Psychotherapy. That
Metal
must
song, basically. Yeah.
That probably started outside too. I'm looking at the CD, so.
Yeah, it did.
But Outsider's a great track. But I probably would have started with Psychotherapy. But I Need Your Love. It's just weird that there's two covers starting out.
Yeah,
The whole
and
record.
three in total.
Yeah, I think the sequencing on here could have used some revamping, but I don't mind it. Time Bomb in the Park. I think there's a lot of great DD songs on here.
Yeah.
And I will give them some props because I think their version of Time Has Come Today, stunning. Great cover. Oh my God, I love it. But I don't have a problem with this record. Unlike some people that do, we all hear things differently, everyone, and I don't have a problem.
I swear people hear a little bit of soul and they don't go any further, right? It's like they think, oh, is it all going to be like this sort of thing? That might be a cool show. Albums that are like closed off because of the first track, like the first track turns you off. And
But don't you think Martin that is quite a bold move to start this off with?
Yeah, it's odd. It's very.
Do you know anything about that, Davey? The history of that, or why they would start off the record like that? That had to be Joey.
Yeah.
Because
he's the one that likes the Nuggets stuff,
right?
The CC stuff.
I don't know, Martin. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't remember. I wrote this book a long time ago. I did interview Graham Gouldman for it, and a bunch of the producers and CJ, but no.
Yeah, I don't know.
On print,
but I like the record.
Yeah,
go figure. So. All right, so that's number 6. What's your number? So now we're going to the top 5. See, this is where now you rated End of the Century lower, but I think a little low. But I'm looking all my top 5s, my top 4s are all interchangeable. Anyway, go ahead, Davey. Continue on.
Coming in at number 5 from September 1978, Road to Ruin. Got the remastered CD here.
Yeah.
With some bonus tracks. And Road to Ruin reached number 103 in America, number 32 in the UK. And I think this is a really great Ramones album. It was the first one with Marky because Tommy had left to just work. He wanted to be more of a behind the scenes guy as a producer.
Yeah.
And he just was done with touring. So he wanted to be a studio rat. So he produced it under his real name of Tommy Erdelay. And this record starts off with I Just Want to Have Something to Do, which is a great Ramones song. Of course, it's just Johnny on the rhythm guitars, and they always got other guys to do the lead guitars because Johnny really never wanted to do lead guitar work. He was just a rhythm guy with the very fast downstrokes, I think it is. I mean, I don't really play an instrument, so I think it's more downstrokes that Johnny would play on the rhythm guitar. Don't Come Close is a really good, accessible pop, upbeat.
I love it.
Country-ish song. Don't Come Close is great. I Don't Want You we used to do. We did Don't Come Close. I Just Want to Have Something to Do. Needles and Pins, the Searchers cover is on this record. We rehearsed it a bunch of times. We did that song only once. That's my younger sister's favorite Ramones song. So we played a show on her birthday, so we broke it out. It's the only time we ever played Needles and Pins. But I like that cover, of course, written by Sonny Bono, the late, great Sonny Bono. I'm Against It is a good, hard-hitting song. Of course, I Just Want to Be Sedated. Everyone knows that song. I can't really add anything about I Want to Be Sedated. Go Mental is a really good, heavy song, fast song. She's the One we used to play. Love She's the One. That's just so catchy and upbeat. And Bad Brain is a cool song, and it has a different breakdown with the drums and the effects, which was all Marky, and maybe the studio producers, of course. Just a little bit of a different song, Bad Brain, in the Ramones canon. So I think it's a really good album. So at number 5, it's Road to Ruin.
Yeah, I love that record. I rated it a little higher, but whatever. It is what it is. My number 5, I'm going to go with End of the Century. I love this record. We already talked about it. This is the only Phil Spector production that I really can get behind.
Look at that cover with those shirts.
Oh, I think it's great.
It's just un-Ramones-like. It turned off a lot of fans back.
I don't know. Yeah, but I dig it. I like it. Do you remember Rock and Roll? A classic. Some may think it's a bit overproduced. I don't know. I think the the Ramones being overproduced works on here. You've got the great track Danny Says,
Love it.
brilliant. Chinese Rock, brilliant. The Return of Jackie and Judy, brilliant. Baby, I Love You, come on, it's great. I Can't Make It on Time's another wonderful track. Rock and Roll High School's on here, ladies and gentlemen. They still play that. Yeah, it's Phil Spector, but for some reason, I like Phil and the Ramones together. And that's my number 5. I really don't have to add any more to it, but I think they started off positive in the 80s. They couldn't, this is such, you listen to this record and you listen to Subterranean Jungle Pleasant Dreams. It's like night and day, you know? This to me, even though with that Phil Spector production, it still sounds like more, I don't know why I put this record with those 4 core albums, but I do. It still seems like it's part of that period. And Pleasant Dreams to me seems like that's when a new period starts. I don't know if anybody else hears that, but that's the way I hear it. I put all the first 5 all together. So I don't know why.
And I have a
I
different
love it.
one, which I'll get to soon.
Okay.
Here's something if you want a little interlude.
Yes,
from
we
this
want an
Ramones
interlude.
book. I didn't even remember doing half this stuff, but here I'll read you my list of in reverse order the 10 Ramones covers. Not album covers. That's actually a different list, but this is just cover songs ranked. So at 10, I had 7 and 7 Is from Acid Eaters, Street Fighting Man from Too Tough to Die Expanded. 8, I had Surf City. 7, I had Needles and Pins from Road to Ruin. 6, I had My Back Pages, Acid Eaters. 5, I had Do You Want to Dance, Rocket to Russia. 4, I Don't Want to Grow Up, Adios Amigos. Time Has Come Today, number 3. We talked about that, Subterranean Jungle. 2, I had Surfing Bird from Rocket to Russia. And 1, I had California Sun from Leave Home.
That's a good list.
That's a darn good list.
Yeah.
All right, Davey, what's your where are we at? 4?
Number 4.
What's your number 4?
Rocket to Russia.
Oh my.
Wow.
The expanded edition on Rhino on CD, the remaster with the bonus tracks. Another great record. You can't go wrong with Rocket to Russia. It's the last album, of course, with Tommy on drums. And just every song on this record just about is great. There are no bad tracks on this album. We used to do Cretin Hop, Rockaway Beach, Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. We even did Lock It Love, I Don't Care, Sheena's a Punk Rocker, We're a Happy Family. Whole first side of the vinyl we did. Teenage Lobotomy, Do You Want to Dance, I Want to Be Well, Ramona, and Surfing Bird. The only 2 songs we didn't do from here, I Can't Give You Anything and Why Is It Always This Way? So we did 12 out of the 14 songs because this is prime period Ramones, and this is what everyone wanted to hear back in the day.
And they still
Great
do.
album.
All right, cool. Well, my number 4 is Road to Ruin. You pretty much already discussed it. I don't think I have much more to add because I agree with everything you said 100%. My top 4 could change instantaneously because I look at all my top 4, pretty much all rank. You've got to have the top 4. You can't do without one of them. But I just want to have something to do. Oh my God. I wanted everything. I don't want Needles and Pins. Don't Come Close. I think it's pop, sugar pop goodness. And I like it when the Ramones can mix in that pop element. And you know, that's all Joey. Yep. Joey and Johnny going back and forth. I don't know where Dee Dee's more of the rocker. He's Joey. If you hear any pop elements, you know it's Joey. But I think this is really a good combination of everything in one package. I don't know. I think it's a great record. I have no problem. I don't need to elaborate. Like I said, Davey, you mentioned it perfectly. So and keep going.
You guys want one more diversion?
Yeah, of course.
All the album covers ranked in reverse order. How's that?
Okay.
And there's actually quotes from John Holmstrom and people in here, like people who are involved with the illustration of the covers, right? But I won't do that. So I started at the bottom of the Adios Amigos, then Subterranean Jungle. I never liked that cover. Animal Boy, Rocket to Russia, Pleasant Dreams, End of the Century, Acid Eaters, Brain Drain, Halfway to Sanity. Mondo Bizarro is quite colorful, right? Too Tough to Die is pretty iconic. And then number 3, I had Leave Home, and number 2, Road to Ruin, and number 1, Ramones, which is obviously the most iconic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
iconic.
got that whole story from Roberta from in here on that. Yeah, cool. God, it's a lot of work. I just don't remember doing this. This is like got to be a dozen years ago, 15 years ago now, I think.
It looks really good though.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And I don't think it's in print anymore.
And you've written well over 100 books. How could you remember each one?
Yeah. And just for punk, just this and the Clash one, which I don't sell anymore, but that came back into print. But my Damned one, I really love. It's just an analysis of every single Damned song. I love that book to death. That's almost my favorite book of all of them. And that's just a little trade paperback, but it's not anything like this. But I just love writing it.
The Damned
is my favorite band. So.
Yeah, the Damned is like a labor of love. For you to put that together, you're just absolutely in heaven.
Yeah, one of his favorite bands.
Yeah. All right, what's your number 3?
Coming in at number 3, and here's another one of those Russian import 2-for-1s, and it would be Leave Home, the second album. Those Fidanya, comrade. On Leave Home, their second album, it's sort of a mirror image of the first album. The production is a little better, great songs again, no bad tracks. I think the band, we almost performed just like the third album, Rocket to Russia. We did almost every song from here. Glad to See You Go is a great opening track. We used to do that song. Gimme Gimme Shock Treatment, another great song. I Remember You we did. Oh, I Love Her So. Used to love doing that one. We even did Carbone and Not Glue, which was pulled off the record because it was copyright infringement back in the day. They were going to get sued, so they had to pull it and replace it with another song. We did Susie as a Headbanger, Pinhead, Now I Want to Be a Good Boy, which has just a fierce, hard beat. Swallow My Pride, one of my favorite melodic Ramones songs. That is a great song. I think we did What's Your Game? I'm not even sure. California Sun, Martin mentioned before. One of my favorite Ramones covers. That guitar riff. Excellent song. Commando, of course, we did.
And covered by the Dictators even before the Ramones did it, right? Because it's on Go Girl Crazy 1975. And that whole debate about who invented, who came up with the leather jackets first, the Dictators or the Ramones, is kind of an interesting story. But yeah, so they did that in 75 on the CBS record. And here they are doing it in, what is it, 77, right?
77.
76, 77, 77, right at the beginning of 77. Yeah.
And then we did Commando because that was the name of the second incarnation of the band. You're Gonna Kill That Girl is great, although it's not too PC today, but that's the Ramones. They were influenced by horror movies and comedy, and that's just their sense of humor. It's Dee Dee's sense of humor. Actually, that's a Joey song. And then it ends with You Should Never Have Opened That Door, which we did at rehearsal, but we never played that one out live. So it's a great record, start to finish, no bad tracks. Leave Home, my number 3.
Nice. Yeah. And that album cover is a little bit like the Jam, This Is the Modern World, right?
Yeah, there's definite similarity there.
Yeah. I think that's the right Jam one, right?
What's the story? Oh, okay. Let me look. You've got the remaster of that, Davey?
No, I just have the Russian 2-on-1.
Okay. But is that, and it doesn't have any bonus tracks on it, right? Or does it?
No, Road to Ruin does not. Leave Home.
Yeah, that's probably a clone.
Just the 14 songs.
Now I can't remember what I was going to say. Wasn't there? Yeah, oh, wow. Look, okay. But Leave Home.
Expanded with a whole live set, and then there's a 40th anniversary with extras. Wow, a lot of stuff.
But there's a song, wasn't it? It originally was released, and I can't think of the track now because I'm blanking out, that they removed off that album.
Yeah, Carbone and Not Glue.
Yeah.
That's the one.
But what was the story behind that?
I think because of the brand name in it, right?
Yes, Carbona was a brand name. So they had to pull the song.
Did that ever get reissued on anything? Because I'm not sure if I've got it or not. Did it come out on the remaster? Do you know?
Definitely on the remaster. I think it was even on the I think it was the 1990 reissue. They put the first two albums on one CD, and I'm pretty sure Carbona was on there in 1990.
I've got that. I don't think it's on there.
It's
That's
definitely
all
on
right.
the standalone CD.
Okay. I think I have it, but I pulled them. I have a lot of these CDs these are, if you go over to Steve Hoffman's site, people rave. There are certain Ramones CDs that sound really good. The comp that came out in like 88, what help me, the yellow cover with the collage.
I have it right here.
There you go. I knew Davey had it.
Ramones Mania.
That is like through the audio file word, that is actually considered the best comp sound quality wise, because when they compiled this, I know we're on a tangent, but I have to talk about it. In case you're looking for CDs or you're looking for Ramone albums that sound good, that is off the master tapes, but they're not futzed with or anything. When you hear it, it's pretty much, you hear the hiss, you hear what the tape sounds like. Some people like that, some people don't. I like to hear what the damn tape sounds like, but that's always considered a good one. The other thing that are considered very good, just for anybody looking, is that the original first pressing Japanese CDs that came out, they all have this purple, banner around it, but these really aren't futzed with either. This pretty much has warts and all, and these sound very natural sounding. They're not, like over compressed or, they're not loud. They're not the loudness war. They don't anything like that. These are good. If you can pick up any of the Japanese ones, I've got quite a bit. I think this is a Japanese one, but they put them all out. You can probably get them. I think someone on the Steve Hoffman site was selling them all at once, and I said, well, shoot, I'll take them. They weren't terribly expensive, but
Well, all the early stuff came out in Japan way before it came out in America.
yeah.
I think Animal Boy may have been the first Ramones album on CD back in the day.
Yeah.
And the early stuff you could only get as Japanese imports on CD until I think it was 1990 that Warner Brothers put out All That Stuff and More Volume 1 and 2 with a couple of B-sides on
I
them.
think this has this came out, no, it doesn't say, it just says 1977. But I don't know. All right, my number, now I say again, my top four could change. All of these I like the same, but I'm going to rate the debut number 3. And the only reason I'm rating the debut at number 3 is because it really doesn't sound all that hot. It sounds like they recorded it in a basement somewhere. That's the only reason, but the songs are great. The playing's fine. Blitzkrieg Bop, Beat on the Brat, Judy is a Punk, I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, Chainsaw, Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue. It's one great song after another. The energy's here. It's a classic. But the only reason I'm putting it down is just because of the sound quality. It's great. Tomorrow it could be my number 1, but it's a perfect Ramones album. I mean, and the expanded CD has a lot of demos and stuff. I mean, they're okay to have, but I think just the regular album is fine for me. A definite must have. Could it be my number 1 tomorrow? Definitely. But there you go. All right.
Coming in at number 2 on my list from 1984, Too Tough to Die.
Oh, crap. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I love this album. This is sort of when I came into the Ramones, like I said. 84 to 86 is when I first discovered them through my friends Bobby and Anthony. And this is a great album. It's a heavy album. It's a hard rocking album. There's barely any Joey songs on it. It's all Dee Dee and Johnny. And Dee Dee just came into his own on this album. It starts out with Mama's Boy, which we used to do, a hard hitting song. I'm Not Afraid of Life is good. Too Tough to Die, we did the title track. The only Ramones instrumental, Durango 95, written by Johnny. It's how we used to open most of our shows, with that song. Of course, you mentioned Warthog by Dee Dee is great. And I'll just add to it Endless Vacation. Those are like the hardcore, thrashy type songs, whichever way you want to look at it. And then you have the big commercial songs with keyboards played by Ben Montench from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers of all places.
Yeah.
Plays keyboards on Chasing the Night and Howling at the Moon, 2 great songs I used to love to perform. But those songs would get me out of breath, those songs. A lot of vocals in those songs. And they're both 4-minute songs, but of course it's the Ramones. barely any guitar solos, so it's a lot of singing. And then the album ends with a Joey song called No Go, which is a really good deep track. So I like this whole album. Maybe Humankind by Ritchie is probably the weak point on the album, but that's just nitpicking. I thought some of his later songs were better than that. But it's a really good album, and I love Too Tough to Die.
And you like
my number 2.
production? You like the production?
Production doesn't bother me. It's the songs I love on
Yeah,
it.
see, you're one of those guys. That's all right. I gotta have everything.
You guys are more into the production, I think, than I am. It's something I noticed.
Well, I don't know if Martin is, but I am. That's just the way I am.
I just don't really have any complaints about the Ramones productions except for the first album. That's about it. You know, I mean, they're all slightly different, but I have no complaints with them. I don't think any of them, they don't pooch it on any of them.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, you don't like Brain Drain, Grant.
I don't. I think it's
Production on it.
Oh, Bill Laswell's God, no. I can't listen to it because of the production. It is what it is. All right. So I think you already we just talked about this. Leave Home is my number 2. What did this do? I didn't really write any notes on it. Again, 5-star reviews all over the map. Glad to See You Go. Gimme Shock Treatment. This is just like the first album. This is just as strong as the debut, but they seemed a little bit more honed in on their playing together. The production's better. And that's the only reason that it's higher up for me, is that the production's better, but it's just as strong as the debut. No sophomore slump here. I don't have a problem. Even when what was the track that they replaced on here? They put Sheen as a punk rocker on here.
Right, in place of Carbona, not glue.
I can handle that. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. But it's very solid record. Number 2, what more can I say about it? You've already talked about it. It's a classic. All right, Davey.
My number 1, the debut album,
Okay.
Ramones. Here it's coupled with the great live album, It's Alive, from 1979. But on this record, it might be hard to tell because I have the Russian 2-on-1 import. Johnny is actually giving the middle finger. If you look closely enough, you could see his middle finger right there. And they airbrushed that out of the later editions because the way his hand is in his pocket, only his middle finger is visible.
Yeah.
The debut album, we did every song from here, all 14 songs throughout my 10 years plus with the Ramones tribute bands. So I love every song on here. To me, it's a perfect album. I know the sound isn't that great. It's not the most well produced, but it was punk. This was punk rock in the mid 70s. I just love the songs, the flow. Craig Leon did the production, and this charted number 111 in America. And for everything that happened in England, this never charted in England. So in England, the debut, Pleasant Dreams, and Subterranean Jungle were the only 3 Ramones albums never to chart. Every other Ramones album, all of them, all 14, charted in America, but just not very high on the charts.
Yeah.
So that's my number 1 for sentimental reasons, just going back and remembering going to the drummer's house. The late, great Donnie Ramone unfortunately passed away last year. He used to be the drummer that I played with for over a decade. And when he had me come to his house and sing those first 3 songs, Beat on the Brat and Blitzkrieg Bop and I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, this holds a special place in my heart. Production quibbles aside, I think it's a perfect album.
It's got a hilarious cymbal sound. It's a really funny cymbal sound on it, right?
Those are probably just crap cymbals.
One other memory I have of hearing this band in 76, 77 was it was a little bit like hearing Nirvana and some of the grunge stuff where you thought, you know, this is actually heavier than all the recent hair metal things I've been listening to. And Ramones, you would put this on. So there was the distraction of the vocals, which we just didn't get. It just sounded like a novelty, right? But the music had this just wall-to-wall sound sort of thing. And it wasn't punk like most other punk. It was kind of a different sort of punk. It was like I say, this wall-to-wall heavy sound that this band had that, you know, if it wasn't for the vocals and if it wasn't for it being a little more melodic, it seemed heavier than most heavy metal that we were into at the time, right? And I remember also being concerned about that name of the band. It's like you're thinking Phil Ramone, Ramones, Flamin' Groovies. You know, there was a rock and roll revival thing going on at the time in the 70s, right? So you know, you just weren't sure. Is this, and the look of the guys, like it was a little Sha Na Na was a big hit show, right?
Sha Na Na.
It's got the Sha Na Na look to it, right? So I just remember, you know, it took us a while. Like I say, I think I saw this album and then didn't buy it for a little while, right? Because I just thought it was like a rock and roll revival sort of album. And that band name was definitely not a heavy sounding band name, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One more thing about the debut album, I like how the guitars are in one speaker, one side, and the bass is in the other.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I would just, yeah, you could hear Dee Dee's bass on the first bunch of Ramones albums. He's really high in the mix. I love that. I like bass a lot. And I used to turn off the guitar channel, and sometimes I would play the whole record through just hearing the bass and the drums and the vocals. I always like that great separation. It's only on the first album.
Yeah, they wanted that Beatles stereo mix sound, or at least Joey probably did. Well, they all like the Beatles, so it's fine. But I kind of dig that too, and that's the only record that sounds like that. You know, but some people like it, some people don't. My number one, I'm just going to go with Rocket to Russia, and the only reason is that the production's a little bit better, but it's all full of great songs. Cretin Hop, Rockaway Beach, Sheena is a punk rocker. We're a Happy Family is probably my favorite Ramones song. I mean that, you know, but that's probably much a go-to. That should have been a hit, but Ramones aren't going to have a hit. Teenage Lobotomy is great. Do You Want to Dance, which is Bobby Freeman's song, which the Beach Boys did. Surfing Bird's fun. It's a great record. All the first four are fine. They're all interchangeable. So that's
although people complained about the fourth one, right? I mean, it was a little, they thought it was like, whoa, acoustic guitar, things like that, right? I remember that was the first time they kind of got bad reviews on Road to Ruin, and then they got bad reviews again on the next one. They got bad reviews on Pleasant Dreams, right? So it became kind of a regular thing. But I remember there were definitely complaints about the fourth one back in the day.
Tommy he was there with production, but not the playing. So the drum sound was a little different with Marky now playing drums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Rolling Stone album guide, which I love to throw out, because they only gave it a 3.5-star review. Yeah, the reviews for it went down a bit. Of course, the Village Voice loved it. They love everything Ramones because that was Frisco. Yeah, the reviews are a little bit lower, but I think it's great. Well, they kind of screwed with the formula, you know. To great results, though, I must say. I don't have a problem with this record at all.
Where are you seeing the reviews so fast? On Wiki?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the ratings.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody's reviewed this in the past.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the Village Voice, that's probably Chris Scow. But I looked at his, Chris Scow wrote, the band is constantly topping itself and implied that each track on the album was very listenable except Bad Brain, the theme of which he called repetitive or something.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about Rocket to Russia then?
No, I'm talking about Road to Ruin.
Oh, to Ruin, yeah. But I'm just telling you, I just remember people thought it was too fancy pants, right? That they were getting a little, it's getting a little too detailed kind of.
Oh, you mean Rocket to Ruin one?
No, when Road to Ruin came out.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. With Marky. Yeah.
Yeah. But I like Marky as a percussionist. God, he's a great drummer. He was great. His interview on the cruise was great. People loved him. His stories, because he was talking about all high school stuff and, you know, talking about his upbringing and him learning to play drums, and it was good. It was great.
Cool.
You're on mute.
I was going to ask you, Grant, is the Marky interview on your channel? Because I know you put up a lot of stuff from the 80s cruise.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go watch that then.
Yeah, I was right in the front row. It was good.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, it's good. And then right after, that's when he signed my CD. Normally they sign them all in this same room that they give the speech in, or their interview or whatever. but he took it out, and there was a big line for him to get CD signed. But he seems like a nice guy, though.
Do they
But,
charge for that kind of thing on the cruise?
No,
No.
nope.
Just a couple of fast things, if I could.
Oh
add.
yeah, sure. We can wrap it up after that.
On the Ramones Mania CD that you mentioned, there are 30 songs on here. So if you find it, besides, according to Hoffman's Forum, the sound being so great, it's a lot of bang for your buck with 30 tracks. And it even includes one of their great B-sides, Indian Giver, cover of that chestnut from back in the day. And there's another great CD. I don't have the slipcase, but it's Ramones Anthology. And there's some of the album covers on it. And this has a lot of songs, 2 CD set. Ton of songs on here. And I neglected to mention my favorite Ramones B-side from the Too Tough to Die album from that era, 1983, 1984, when it was released, Smash You. Great song written by Richie, if memory serves. And it's just a 2-minute hard-hitting song. Not PC nowadays at all, but musically it's a great song. The lyrics might question those nowadays, but that's the Ramones, their wacky sense of humor back in the day. 40 years ago. So Smash You is a great B-side. And the Ramones have great B-sides throughout their career. Slug is another one. And then there's the one with the girls from the B-52s on it. And now the song title just flew out of my head.
I just listened to that today.
It's from the album Get Crazy originally, the movie soundtrack. Chop Suey, that's it.
Chop Suey. Yeah, that's a great track. Yeah. I don't
They
think
do have good B-sides worth looking into.
and you can tell it's the bees are on there. Oh my God, it stands out like a sore thumb.
Yep.
That's great. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've ranked them.
All right.
But like I said, I really can't say that there's a bad record in the bunch. Just different degrees, you know.
And it could change any day, like you said.
Change any day. All right, well, Davey, is there anything? What?
Yeah, if I could just add one thing.
Of course.
My new YouTube channel, Cretin Classics. And I'm happy that I did 2 recent videos on one of Martin's favorite bands and one of my favorite bands, also from New York, Blue Oyster Cult. I did a couple of Blue Oyster Cult videos, including a review of the new album that's doing really well. So if you have a chance, come by and check out Cretin Classics.
Very cool.
And thank you for having me, Grant and Martin. It was great to meet you, and I'm glad.
Yeah, Martin, thanks for popping in.
Yeah, well,
Hang
sorry I
out.
wasn't prepared to do the whole deal, but yeah, I was just surprised by seeing it there. So, yeah, that was fun though. I learned a lot again, or relearned a lot. That was really cool.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody, we'll see you. Please like,
Okay.
subscribe. You know the whole thing. And
All right.
we'd just like
Hey,
to
guys.
promote this every Wednesday. Well, for the most part. On the Contrarians, we do the live chat. So I'm not sure when this will air, but always tune in. 7 o'clock. Martin's there. I'm there. The panel's there. So please tune in because that's always a good time. And this Wednesday is going to be fun. Other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks.
All right.
Dave.
Thanks,
See you, Martin.
guys.
All
Take
right.
care.
Have a
Bye
good
now.
evening.